Emma and Ryan had just recently moved into their new apartment on the 8th floor. It was a cozy place with a view of the park, and the balcony was their favorite part of the house. Every night before going to bed, Ryan closed the balcony door, carefully checking the lock. But one morning, Emma, getting ready to go out onto the balcony, noticed that the door was ajar. "Did you forget to lock the door?" she asked Ryan, pointing to the gap. "No, I definitely did," he frowned, coming closer. Emma didn't pay much attention to it, but the next day the story repeated itself. Ryan again swore that he locked the door, but in the morning it was open. "It's the wind," Emma said, trying to hide her concern. "On the 8th floor?" Ryan doubted, checking the lock. "It works fine." I think perhaps the exercise would be a good idea." The door swung open and Ryan stepped. The next night, before going to bed, they both carefully locked the door, then reinforced it with a heavy vase placed at the threshold. The next morning, the house was empty. But in the morning, the vase was moved, and the door was open again. After another morning with an open door and a dislodged vase, Ryan decided to install a security camera. He hooked it up to his phone so it would alert him if there was movement, and assured Emma that they would now know what was going on. "If it's someone trying to break in, we'll know," he said, checking that the camera was working. They both slept restlessly that night, but nothing strange happened. The next morning, Ryan checked the footage first. When he turned on the video, his heart sank. The footage, at around 3 in the morning, clearly showed a figure on the balcony. It was a man, tall, with long arms and a head slightly tilted to the side. He stood motionless, looking towards the door. "Who is that?" Emma breathed, looking at the screen. "I don't know," Ryan muttered, "but we would have heard if someone had come up here. It's the 8th floor." When they checked the balcony, there was no one there, no trace, no sign that anyone had been there. The next night, Ryan decided not to sleep. He sat in the living room, holding his phone in his hand, watching the camera feed. At 3 o'clock, the screen flickered as the camera detected movement. Ryan felt a chill run down his spine as he saw the same person. This time, the figure was standing closer, right next to the door. It wasn't moving, but its gaze seemed to burn through the glass, as if it were seeing Ryan through the camera. He jumped up and ran to the balcony, throwing the door open, but there was no one there. "It's impossible!" he shouted, but he heard nothing but the quiet night wind. With each passing day, the figure on the footage got closer. Now it wasn't just standing on the balcony, it began to move toward the door, placing its hand on the glass as if trying to get inside. Ryan and Emma locked all the locks, but they knew that wouldn't stop the creature. It left no traces, made no sounds, but every morning the door was found to be slightly open than the day before. Another night, Emma and Ryan decided not to go to bed. They sat in the living room, trying to stay awake, but the tension was weighing on them. The camera was silent, and the balcony door stood in place, double-locked. "Maybe it's all our imagination," Emma whispered, trying to suppress her fear. "It's not our imagination," Ryan snapped, showing her the video from the previous nights. "This is real." The clock struck 3 in the morning. The camera lit up, signaling movement. They both froze, peering at the screen. The figure appeared again. It was standing very close, right next to the glass door. This time its hand slid slowly across the glass, leaving a thin frost behind it. Its head was still tilted, but now they could see details of its face. It was unnaturally smooth, with hollows where the eyes and mouth should be. "Shh, she's trying to come in," Emma breathed, her voice shaking. Suddenly, the lights in the room flickered. The air turned cold, as if an icy wind was blowing through the window. Ryan rushed to the door, checking the locks, but everything was in place. "It's inside, Ryan!" Emma screamed, stepping back. For a moment, everything froze, and then the door was gone. In its place was a mirror. Emma and Ryan saw their reflection, but it was wrong. Their faces seemed distorted, like the figure on the balcony. "What is this?" Ryan screamed, stepping back in horror. But when he turned around, it wasn't their house. They were standing on the balcony, the cold air cutting through their bodies. They were looking through the glass door into the apartment, where their copies were sitting on the couch, motionless, but perfectly imitating their poses. "It's not us," Emma whispered, clutching Ryan's hand. The lights went out in the apartment, and their copies slowly raised their heads, looking at them through the glass. "We're not here anymore," Ryan said quietly, his voice shaking with realization. No one saw them again that night. Only the camera continued to record, capturing each new day. The footage showed two figures standing on the balcony, motionless, as if waiting for something.